breaking. Trump just delivered his most controversial education overhaul yet. And what happened next has sent shockwaves through America's classrooms. Over $1 billion in student programs have been ripped away from the education department and handed to labor. Parents are panicking, teachers are in revolt, and millions of students could see their career paths completely transformed overnight. This isn't just policy change anymore, this is educational revolution in real time. If you want to stay ahead of stories like this that will reshape your children's future, hit that subscribe button right now because what you're about to see will change how you think about American education forever. Here's what sparked the biggest education crisis in decades. 3 days ago, the Trump administration made a move so bold, so unprecedented, that it left education officials scrambling for answers. Career and technical education programs worth over $1.4 billion in federal funding were suddenly transferred from the Department of Education to the Department of Labor. We're talking about programs that directly impact millions of high school and community college students across America. But Trump wasn't just reorganizing bureaucracy.
And my goodness, they are making one hell of a mess. Never in the field of human history have so many been let down by so few. All they have delivered is a doom loop of higher taxes, weaker borders, and month after month of chaos. They had a plan to win, but no plan for power, no vision for Britain. They know how to make promises, but not how to deliver them. This year, the Prime Minister was asked to name his best moment in office. Do you know what he said? Walking into Downing Street. For once, I agree with him. It's been downhill all the way since. What have Labour given us? An anti-corruption minister under investigation for corruption, a homelessness minister who made her own tenants homeless, a housing secretary sacked for dodging housing taxes. You couldn't make this stuff up. We had a transport secretary fired for stealing a phone, and our ambassador in Washington thrown out in disgrace. There is an old joke that a diplomat is someone sent abroad.
He exposed something that has parents and educators absolutely furious. For decades, the education department has been managing these programs with what critics call bloated administrative overhead and zero accountability to actual job markets. Meanwhile, American students graduate with skills that don't match what employers desperately need. The disconnect between classroom theory and workplace reality has become so glaring that even establishment insiders are questioning the old system. And if you think this story is shocking so far, just wait because it gets so much worse. The administration's response was swift and devastating. Education Secretary Linda McMahon, in a statement that sent ripples through every school district in America, declared that the Department of Labor is better positioned to streamline these critical career programs. Her exact words sent tremors through the education establishment.
Well, it was quite an honour, actually, to be honest, at first, and the conversation went all right, and it was quite amiable to start with, until I was accused of that he said he thought I was racist, and then that really upset me, because I am anything but racist. So I kindly asked him to leave the home.
Did you really? Wow.
Yes.
You kicked him out?
Home, not his.
You kicked Keir Starmer out of your home?
Yes.
Good for you. I think he's been kicked out of a pub before. I've never heard him being kicked out of someone's home. So he accused you of being racist in your home, did he?
He said he suggested I was racist, yes, over things that I was saying. He suggested I was racist.
Because you were... Is that because you were concerned about immigration in your local area?
Yes, very much so.
That's shocking. So the Prime Minister, who's now decided to get tough on immigration, what do you make of that, Joyce? Do you think it's really genuine?
We cannot think of a more inefficient system than to have duplication, with one side not knowing what the other is doing. So let's consolidate them all in the Department of Labor, where they belong. This ends now. Within hours, the educational establishment went into complete panic mode. Teacher unions called emergency meetings about protecting their turf. Education bureaucrats began frantically updating resumes. Democratic lawmakers immediately declared the move illegal. Billions in program funding suddenly shifted oversight. But then something unprecedented happened that nobody saw coming. Students began celebrating what education experts are calling the most practical reform in decades.
It's gone worse, not better.
What's worse about it?
Well, in the first place, the majority of I have lots of Asian neighbours who I'm very friendly with, but we have a lot of Eastern Europeans that moved into the area. They have no respect for the area. They play football in the street until 2 o'clock in the morning when people have to get up and go to work because obviously they don't work. They dump rubbish everywhere. Quite often the council come round and clean up. Within 5 minutes, it's back again. Mainly mattresses and things like that. So to my thing, it seems that they sleep on mattresses all the time, which we do, but I think they sleep on the floor. They have the sunflower seeds. They constantly spit the cases onto the floor. We look as if we have white carpets on our streets because there are that many of them. They crowd together, and I'm not intimidated. I'm not a person to be intimidated. But quite a lot of people, especially ladies around here, won't walk down the street when they gather together in, 15, 20 men outside one shop, and they don't want to move for you. They don't want to integrate with us. They don't want to do anything of our culture. They just want to keep to their own culture. But if I went to live in another country, I would have to accept their cultures, I'm afraid.
At career fairs across the country, students delivered testimonials that left traditional educators absolutely stunned. Programs like advanced manufacturing, healthcare, and information technology suddenly have direct pipeline connections to actual jobs. Students can now earn college credit while still in high school and get guaranteed pathways to well-paying careers. The emphasis on real-world skills over bureaucratic box checking wasn't accidental. It was a direct, devastating shot at decades of failed education policy delivered with the full weight of presidential authority. For the first time in modern history, America's workforce development appeared to prioritize job outcomes over administrative convenience. Industry insiders reveal that major companies have been quietly lobbying for exactly this kind of reform for years. Corporations literally stepping in where the education system failed, offering apprenticeships and training programs that guarantee employment. The optics are absolutely devastating for education traditionalists. Private sector delivering real results while government bureaucrats focused on paperwork. It's a practical comparison so brutal that no amount of political spin can overcome it. Social media exploded with the hashtag Students First trending globally for 6 straight days. Over 2.3 million posts, 45 million engagements, and viral videos contrasting bloated education bureaucracy with streamlined job training programs shared across every platform. These aren't just random social media posts. They're professionally edited testimonials showing students getting hired directly from career programs alongside traditional graduates struggling to find work. The visual contrast is so practically devastating that even mainstream news networks are being forced to cover it. But the deeper crisis is institutional legitimacy. Critics argue that federal staffing is insufficient to manage this transition effectively. Federal career and technical education offices previously provided guidance to states and schools on compliance, program design, and support for students with disabilities. With fewer staff at the education department and much of the work shifted to labor, schools may face challenges accessing guidance or implementing new initiatives. Some advocates fear that the Labor Department will focus programs on short-term job credentials rather than long-term career pathways. Amy Lloyd, who served as Assistant Secretary over Career and Technical Education during the Biden administration, warned that high school programs should create a springboard for lifelong opportunity. Students who take advanced manufacturing classes can set themselves up for trade school admission, while teens taking college-level healthcare classes often earn credit toward associate or bachelor's degrees. The political earthquake inside Washington is accelerating. Congressional hearings have devolved into heated exchanges with lawmakers openly questioning the administration's authority to make such sweeping changes. Democratic Senators Patty Murray and Tammy Baldwin declared the moves illegal, demanding that career education remain under Education Department control. High-ranking Democrats argue this transfer represents another step toward dismantling the Education Department entirely. Meanwhile, Republican governors are capitalizing on the chaos. States like Alabama have already demonstrated successful integration of education and workforce programs, seeing employment rates tick upward among young adults. The Veterans First campaign messaging resonates with working-class voters, abandoning traditional education approaches in droves. The international implications are equally significant. Other nations watch as America potentially revolutionizes workforce development. European officials privately question whether their own education systems are too bureaucratic compared to America's new streamlined approach. From Tokyo to Berlin, headlines focus on American innovation in practical education. The breaking point came during congressional testimony when conservative representatives held up success stories from states already implementing similar reforms. The House Education Committee fell silent as lawmakers presented data showing improved job placement rates and student satisfaction in programs with direct industry connections. Photographs showed students in modern manufacturing facilities, healthcare simulation labs, and technology centers that looked nothing like traditional classrooms. These images revealed students engaged in hands-on learning that immediately translates to career opportunities, creating visual evidence that bureaucrats struggled to counter. The economic implications are mounting daily. American companies are expressing renewed interest in domestic workforce development. Major manufacturers are announcing new apprenticeship programs specifically designed to work with the streamlined federal approach. Technology companies are creating direct pathways from high school programs to well-paying careers. Treasury officials privately predict the streamlined approach could boost economic productivity while reducing education costs. The post-pandemic economic recovery that traditional education promised is finally materializing through practical workforce development. But the deeper crisis is philosophical legitimacy. When industry leaders and students both publicly support practical job training over bureaucratic education management, you're not facing standard policy opposition. You're facing a complete paradigm shift that no amount of institutional resistance can reverse. The visual narrative dominating every screen in America tells an undeniable story. Modern career labs versus outdated classrooms. Direct job placement versus vague degree promises. Students earning while learning versus accumulating debt. Traditional educators talk about complexity and educational theory, but no one cares about academic abstractions when students can see clear pathways to financial independence and meaningful careers. Every day brings fresh developments, more success stories from streamlined programs, more testimonials from satisfied students, more viral social media content showcasing practical education results. The algorithms on every platform amplify this content because engagement rates are through the roof. The emotional power of students succeeding spreads faster than any bureaucratic response can contain it. This isn't just an administrative reorganization anymore. It's become the defining symbol of everything right with practical education reform. Connected to reality, results-oriented, willing to prioritize student success over institutional convenience. Social media groups like Students Over Systems have gained over 500,000 members in just 2 weeks. They're organizing career fairs, fundraising for equipment upgrades, and creating viral content showcasing program successes that reach millions daily. Inside the Education Department, sources describe an atmosphere of uncertainty and adaptation. Officials who once managed these programs are now working closely with Labor Department counterparts, learning to prioritize workforce outcomes over traditional metrics. Some describe the transition as challenging but potentially transformative. The question is no longer whether this reform will succeed. Industry support, student enthusiasm, and practical results suggest the change addresses real problems. The only question now is whether traditional education institutions can adapt to this new reality without completely losing relevance. America is watching education policy evolve in real time. This transformation will be studied for decades as a textbook example of practical reform overcoming institutional inertia. The educational revolution is just getting started, and the implications will reshape American workforce development for years to come. At its center stands a system that looks increasingly practical, increasingly effective, and increasingly focused on actual student success rather than bureaucratic convenience. Trump's move wasn't just about administrative efficiency or cost savings. It was about moral clarity and practical results. And on that measure, the reform succeeds so completely that even traditional education critics are being forced to acknowledge its merit. That's not just policy victory. That's educational transformation that will define a generation of American workers. What do you think? Has Trump finally solved the disconnect between education and employment? Will this reform create better opportunities for students? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. And if this story amazed you as much as it amazed us, share it with everyone who needs to see what's really happening in American education right now. The mainstream media won't tell you the full truth about these practical reforms, but we will.